So I made an illustrated children's book for someone in my life, and I don't know how to draw. And I want to take you through some of how I did it. Here's the cover image. It's Princess Zizi and the Jellybeans of Doom. And so I thought about like making it an actual book, but I decided to just go ahead and do it digitally. And one of the first decisions was what to do, like how to create this. The first thing that I did was I went through some options. The first step was just, honestly asking ChatGPT what are top HTML, CSS, JavaScript ways to make a simple storybook for children. I'll be honest, this was a complete dead end for me. I did not find any great tools to do this with that would, like a lot of them were old, like plugins for jQuery or things like that. So I did the using what's in your head, by the way, because it kept trying to search Bing and it just gave me just the worst results ever. So the using what's in your head stop the web browsing activity. So kind of strangely, I thought about Keynote, which I'm just using for this, by the way, as well, because I just thought I know Keynote really well. I've used it for, 20 years. Back in the day, I even used it for web design, which I won't even get into now. It's a great tool. You can use it for so many things. And they have an export to HTML. And I did that, and it's actually pretty good. It's a little surprising how good it is, but it still hasn't been updated in a while. But that led me to then, well, why not Google Slides? It sucks. I know. Nobody wants to use Google Slides. It's absolutely horrific compared to Keynote. But it has a really cool feature where you can go to File, Publish, and then you can publish this link. And then it turns into a nice full screen thing that you can use, and you can touch it and you can go to the next thing. Works great. That's what I'm going to use. I'm going to descend into the depths of madness and use Google Slides. Whew. So the next thing is I just went for a walk. This was like silly. It's like, this is super simple and kind of silly, but like I just went for a half an hour walk, and I just somewhere along the way, I just voice recorded and said what a silly draft of the story was. It was very silly, very first, just kind of whatever came to my mind. And I just did it with the talk to text. I just clicked the talk to text and then did this. Very simple. And it gave me something to go from. So of course the first part is just prompting. And I was using DALL-E 3 for this. I tried Midjourney, but actually I got much better results with DALL-E 3. And here's an example of just a starting prompt. Square image of princess character with light brown skin, dark long hair, tied back at the age of 7, wearing a bright yellow dress. The style is Pixar-like animation. That style part is so key to getting something that personally what I wanted to go for. And also it's a little bit biased because DALL-E 3 just does great Pixar-like animation kind of stuff. It also made it the age 7 a little bit older than Zizi herself. And the tied back kept just a pretty, like a much better reference character. Sometimes I would throw more things into here, like later, which was like tied back with a simple yellow hair tie. So sometimes stuff like that to get more character consistency. Well, why did I use square versus vertical? This is why. When you ask DALL-E to make a vertical image, it usually, like I would say 80 to 90% of the time, gives a vertical image that really is just horizontal. So DALL-E does pretty good if you want to do a horizontal image. That it's got a lot of training for, or whatever, however that works. But the actual making it vertical, I was able to get the first image you saw, that was a vertical through DALL-E. But I just had, especially on these sorts of images, like almost no hit rate actually creating something that actually was vertical. So I'll tell you my first hack, I'll show you. So you can see the first thing that I did on this one is the horizontal that was before, I flipped it and then I put it kind of wider up top and then zoomed in on the bottom. And at first I was like, this is good enough for a kid. They're not gonna notice or care, but I noticed and cared and it didn't sit right. So I was like, I'm gonna need to extend this. And I'll show you what I did here. So I loaded this in here and then I just flipped it. And then there's a new feature for cropping. So when you go to crop, you can do generative expand. And what I do is I just kind of took it like this and like this. And then I just hit generate here. I don't put anything in here because I just want to see what it'll do. And just hit generate, and then it thinks about it. So here's an example. This is pretty bad. You can see the ceiling. So the good news is there's 3 to choose from. That one's also pretty bad, although the floor is pretty good. And this one's pretty bad. So I like the floor of this one. So I would actually just do it again, and I would keep the floor, and then I would redo the ceiling, and I would just do it again and again until I got what I wanted. You can also clean up any details on here you don't like. For instance, there's these little things in the window. So I find the lasso tool is a little bit better here. I just do that, and then I hold down shift to get something extra here. And I do this, and then I hit generative fill. Again, I don't usually, unless I'm feeling like I know what I want, I tend to just not put anything in there. When we wait, and then it's gone. I mean, perfectly gone. This still impresses me. You can also see any others. So you can choose the best version of it being erased. This is probably the best. But you can see how quick it is. You can also add things to this as well in Photoshop. I'm not going to go into that right now, but Photoshop is right now kind of where you clean up and do stuff. It's not as good as DALL-E or Midjourney yet in the generative features, but you can usually hack it through that. And yes, this is the Windows 3.1 screensaver in the background of that, by the way. So you can see here, on the left here is the first image that was vertical, and then the center image, which is expanded. And you can see, I thought I did such a good job because looking at this, I didn't even think about an archway, but yeah, sure, it's an archway. That's super cool. And then you can see on the very right how I ended up cropping it vertically. Obviously, this is just personal preference. I could have zoomed in a little bit more, but I kind of like the archway. It's a bit of weird cropping. I don't know. Should I go back and change it? Anyway, perfection is the enemy of progress. So you can see extended out vertically. These look really good. Some of these are actual, this one's an actual vertical one, but this is an extension. This is an extension. So in the image, none of these, actually half of the foot, cuts off at half the foot here. But everything above in this area and down here was all generated in Photoshop from the base. And I think it looks pretty good. Good enough for a 3-year-old, for sure. Also good enough for me. Okay, so I'll show some of the bloopers. AI is actually so creative and ridiculous that it's pretty fun. Emily mentioned, you should just make the story work with this because it is so ridiculous, and kind of it talking could have been fun. I didn't go in that direction, but actually the art around this is just really cool and stunning, but obviously this is ridiculous. Here's some of me trying to get the person inside the jelly bean. This one got a little closer, but none of these, and obviously the style's wrong. There's a thing where it tends to remember the first and the last, but the middle gets super murky. So I had to keep resetting and trying. So a lot of the final images for this was, it'd take maybe anywhere between 10 and 50 generations to get something that I thought was good. Also the balloon flying away. I was trying to get the balloon, it's her pet jelly bean. I was trying to get it sort of to have people in it, but it just got too weird, and it kept trying to go for surreal. I'm not going for surreal. I'm just trying to minimalistic, somewhat terrifying. And then the crying was really hard to actually get right. This took a lot of generations. It took me a couple days actually of playing with to get the one where I don't show it in here, but you can go to my website and play the whole thing. There's one where she's sitting there crying, and it goes from what happened here, all the styles broken, to closer but terrifying ridiculous, to back random anime, and then over to close but not there. So I did, for the ending, use Midjourney, as you can see here, because at the end, there's text around it. It says the story continues next time around this. But this, I just love this image. It took a while to get where I wanted it in terms of like actually getting the dirt on the dress and the way her hands are down. I was trying to get a little bit more of fists bundled up in the air, and I had to redo some of the hair and stuff in Photoshop. But like this feeling of like this little girl just going towards this castle to save her friends. And I just feel like it really captures that. I know it's a little bit of a mix. It's a little more photorealistic, which Midjourney tends towards than DALL-E, even though I was giving it, 3D Pixar like animation prompts. But I don't know. I'm just so taken with that. It's so incredible, and it's where the book ends. And every time Zizi was like, "Why is her dress dirty?" It's because she was crying, and then she's got to get up and be brave. Anyway, it's pretty cool.
Look, say once a time.
Once upon a time, there was a princess named Zizi.